You're listening to Sweet Bites with Sandra with your host, Sandra Colton-Medici. Tune in every Thursday to satisfy your entrepreneurial sweet tooth. Follow on Instagram at Sweet Bites with Sandra Podcast and Sandra Colton-Medici. You can also join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Sweet Bites with Sandra. Hi, I'm Sandra, and I'd like to invite you to subscribe and listen to my new podcast, Sweet Bites with Sandra. Satisfy your entrepreneurial sweet tooth in each episode, full of digital business tips, inspiring interviews, asides from my entertainment career, and rewards to celebrate your sweet success. Find Sweet Bites with Sandra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Welcome back to Sweet Bites with Sandra, the podcast. I am joined by my OG friend.
OG.
Yes, Miss Keltie Colleen. She is an Emmy-winning, award-winning, over the moon for Entertainment Tonight correspondent and the co-creator of the amazing 90 million downloaded podcast, Lady Gang. So welcome to the podcast.
First of all, I'm so excited to see you. This is amazing. Number two, between the time that we emailed to set this up and today, we now have 110 million downloads. So we're just going to add that to the list. Babes, Lady Gang's on fire. And what I think is the cutest, which is the 100% telltale sign that we're OGs, is that you called me by my maiden name, Keltie Colleen, and it just came out of your brain like that. Now I'm a knight, but when I first met you, I was a Colleen, and you were so influential in my life. So I'm so happy to have you and support another strong, trailblazing woman.
Well, I'm so sorry because I know that, when you switch names, it's a big deal. So
I mean, kind of. I just liked it more. Like when I met my husband, Chris, and his last name was Knight, I was like, so if I marry you, I'm going to be Keltie Knight. And she seems like a real bitch, like a really hardworking, get shit done kind of girl. And I was like, I want to be her. I want to be her.
Yes, indeed. But when I met you, you were a hardworking girl too. So let me just back it up because we go back to your first book. Now, a lot of people might know you from Lady Gang or Act Like a Lady and the best-selling New York Times instant bestseller book with your girl group. I say girl group like you're a
I call them the girls too, so it's fine. It's like the Spice Girls.
Right, exactly. Where are they? Well, so when we met, I think I met you at a coffee shop in randomly
New York.
LA. No, it was LA. Was it? I think it was
LA. It was LA
because you had just come here and you had lived in New York for a long time. You would, dance for the Nets and the Knicks and high kicks and
high hopes. Yeah.
Yes, I just found your blog. I was looking it up.
It's still there.
It is still there. So if you want to do a deep dive into Keltie Knight, go back to her early days High Kicks and High Hopes blog.
It's crazy. And you know what? I should probably be making money off that in some way. Not that anyone's going there, but with that, with a 20-year SEO, can you imagine? It's just, that's archaic internet right there.
Yes, indeed. But you are a businesswoman. I mean, from just parlaying your mad skills on the dance floor, to published author, to Emmy Award winner, to again, now published author. I mean, what don't you do?
You're so sweet. I think when you're relatively just okay at most things, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, you're always trying to diversify your skills and make the money where you can, because you know that you are not the Meryl Streep of the business. And so for me, that's always been my thing. I mean, dance was, when I was a small kid, that was the caveat or the way to get out of your small town, right? Is go dance on a cruise ship, and every boy played hockey and every girl played dance or did dance. That was just the way it was. So dance was my first love and something that I was mildly okay at, enough to have a professional career. Sure, yes, I was great, but I wasn't the best. I'm not Misty Copeland, you know what I mean? I was good. I booked some jobs. I did a good job. I got rejected a lot too. But as I got into show business, I realized that the people that had true success, they were sort of these multifaceted people. And I had so many passions. And to be honest, in my 20s, when I was dancing, I was just like trying to figure out how to pay rent. So it was like, oh, now I make stickers. Now I sell jewelry on Etsy. Like now I'll make a t-shirt. Now I'm going to write a book. Like you just kind of did whatever you could to pay rent. And now I do it the exact same hustle, but like in a more thoughtful way.
Oh, well, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're thinking about the thing that you would want to do, because I always ask this
Mm-hmm.
of all of the guests, is like,
Mm-hmm.
what's on your bucket list that you haven't done? And you've kind of ticked a lot of boxes. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you've jumped out of a plane yet, but what exactly would you have as your next? Because you are stacking it, you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
stacking it. So what's in your list?
I am, I'm going to be lofty as like so lofty right now. I like to set a big goal. I want to expand the Lady Gang brand. I have fallen in love with podcasting, as you have too. I love our community, and it is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. We are able to give back. We're able to share stories. We're able to have a laugh. Like, I feel like I just have millions of best friends around the world, which I guess being the, person who only has really three friends is like the popularity that I always dreamed I would have. But it's the coolest community. And I wake up every day so hungry to support us. And I want to expand. We have a Lady Gang clothing line and we have the book and the podcast. I want to have makeup, skin, hair, booze, sex toys, more books, paper goods. Like I want to have all the things. And in 5 years, I want to come back on this podcast and have sold the Lady Gang brand for like $100 million. Like that's where I'm at. Like
Oh my
I'm
God.
so lofty. I
The thing
believe
is, that's possible.
yeah,
Like,
I believe that we are a lady sourced brand. So everything we do, we take it back to our community. And we're like, what do you need? What sweater do you want? And I think we're going to take that into what we do next. And it's like, hey, we're going to make some paper goods. Like, what's the card you can never find? It's like, oh, when you get cheated on, like, okay, we'll make that card. So you can send it to your girlfriend. Like, sorry, he cheated on you. Your vagina is beautiful. Or like, whatever it says.
yes. Well, let me tell you, I once thought about going into the greeting card business, and it's a massive thing, like beyond just e-greetings, like there's an association that you can join. Like, I don't know. I think there's something to it. But when I wanted to get into greeting cards, it was because there were no dance related cards for gay people. And you know what I mean? So, it wasn't, I mean, yes, it was congratulations, you won your,
Yeah.
competition. It wasn't like talking to them in a way that was inclusive. And
Yep.
so, but I never did it. It
Well,
is
no,
what it
listen, but that's the thing. It's like you got to really like an idea because it's so easy to lay in bed at night and be like, you know what I should do? And then when you go into the work, like, for instance, like with Lady Gang, we just did a December or a holiday launch of clothes a few months ago. And I mean, we did everything. We sourced, we fit, we found the factory, we decided on the knit and the fabric and the colors and all that stuff. And we were like, wow, this is so much work. Well, wait until you start selling it. And then you have to deal with the postal service. And now I'm a postal service expert. Like you don't even think in business about how many little minutia things are going to go wrong. And it's like all of a sudden, the postal service is shut down because of COVID, and you have hundreds of emails every day being like, hey, where's my package? I'm like, I'm not a mailman. I cannot tell you where it is. It says it's in Arizona. I hope it's there. Good luck. Godspeed. Let me know when it comes. And like, oh,
Well, that's the thing though. If you're in it as a business person to know every little facet, then you are more aware. And that,
mhm.
on this podcast, we talk about marketing, we talk about business, we talk about tips and things like that. So what would be the one takeaway from running this as a business, right?
Mhm.
And knowing what you know now before you got in and started branching off to your, express collaboration,
Mhm.
like that.
I think that when you're a small business, you skip over the steps of like having lawyers look at contracts and having E&O insurance and all of those things. And it takes, because you're so small, you're like, I only have like $700. Like I can't afford all of these different steps. The issue what I think is really important is being like super, super careful about those things, because everything from the clickware on your website to, you know, making a product to reading the small print of different contracts that you agree to, when you get big, no one's going to come at you when you're little. You know what I mean? Like no one, they're just going to be like, but I guarantee those people are waiting. And when you get big, all of a sudden, and you look outward facing successful, whether or not you're in the red on your real books, when you're outward facing successful, people start coming for you. And if everything is not done and tied with a perfect ribbon, it can be a lot of heartache, you know, because you're like, I'm a good person. Like, I don't know. I just didn't read that like 18th page of that thing. I didn't know, like, you know.
Yeah, I
So
think
that's
that's
my
all
thing.
of us when we sign up for the revised rules of Facebook. You know, we're all like, yeah, I'll get that.
Oh, I'm like an expert in contract law. Like I literally call myself Elle Woods because so many times, I mean, lawyers are fucking expensive. So it's like, I'll do so much of the casework myself and then send it to just save the $400 an hour. Like it's just wild. Anyway,
Yeah.
very lofty.
Well, so the process of doing a book, I want to
Mm-hmm.
go back to this because you already did your first book solo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So collaborating on a book, what's the difference? What were kind of the pieces that you had to adjust in order to do that?
Yeah, so my first book I self-wrote on a Mac while I was on tour with the Rockettes. It was like a verbal diarrhea of my heartbreak, and I self-published it. My friend who did graphics did the cover. I wrote my own bio, and I sold it on my own website and out of my backpack. So it was very like, no, I didn't have an editor. Like no one went back and said, hey, this story's incomplete, or you don't make any sense here. When we did the Lady Gang book, we worked with Penguin Random House, and I remember specifically the day we went and to meet with Diana, who is the editor in chief of Rudal. We walked in and I was like, oh, there's Michelle Obama's book on the wall. And you're like, oh, there's every favorite classic book. Like they have the rights or have published like some of my favorite books. Like they're so massive and the walls are like just, I mean, it's just so insane. I was like, oh shit, I better like have grammar all of a sudden. And so writing it was so much different because when you're writing it, you have all these deadlines of, you know, you had to have a clear idea of what the book was going to be. You had to hit these deadlines, and we were doing it together as three. So it was like, I would write something, the girls would read it and they'd be like, this whole middle part doesn't make sense. And I'd have to like go back. And so there was just so many more checkpoints. And I think there was a real sense of responsibility to get it right, because I knew if we opened our hearts and we wrote something amazing, it would, like, I wanted to be the book that every listener of the Lady Gang podcast bought a copy and loved it. But then I wanted that to be so good that they gave it to a friend, and that friend gave it to a friend, and that girl gave it to a friend. And so that was my hope. So we were kind of crazy about it to the point where, you know, the publisher would send us a cover and they'd be like, what do you think this for the cover? And Jack would be like, I'm sorry, I have to do the cover myself. And then Jack ended up doing all the graphic design for the entire book herself. And we were like, just so crazy about it. It was like psycho. But anyway, it was so fun. Probably the best team I've ever worked with on a collaboration, all females. We had the most fun right before COVID hit. We went to New York. We wore matching Madewell jumpsuits. We ran through the halls in the offices of Penguin Random House and made our trailer and like harassed their staff. And it was like the most amazing. And then literally 2 days later, like the world stopped.
During this whole quarantine period, what have you been doing to stay, you know, sane?
Well, I don't think anyone is sane. Are you sane?
I am just, well, I have two kids. So
No, you're
I'm
so
like,
screwed. Yeah.
thank you.
You know, for me, like I always thrived at being at home. I'm a homebody by nature, but I have done a couple things. So number one, I have really leaned into like sweating every day. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I just realized that like getting out of my house and walking or running or doing some sort of workout where I feel like I'm doing something with my body instead of just being a slug has been game changing. And normally, it's funny, normally, especially as a former dancer, you work out because you're like, I have to work out because body, 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 body. But now I'm like, I just want to work out to be happy. And it takes the pressure off because I'm like, today I'm going to do ballet. Today I'm going to do yoga. Today I'm going to do Pilates. Today I'm going to just walk around the neighborhood. Like it's pretty easy. So I think that, and other than that, like a lot of therapy. So weekly therapy, full hour, just talking about myself seems to help.
And are you talking to someone or are you
Yeah, no, like
okay.
a professional who's like, loves to help privileged people who have really great lives complain about their lives. You know, it's like,
You
it's a
know what?
special kind of girl.
Everybody has issues. And as long as we can start to, level the playing field with our own self, hey, progress. That's all I can
Exactly.
say. Um,
Exactly.
well, so I want to tell this. I want you to tell this story because I remember this, and a lot of people know you from, being on TV. But there's two things that I don't know if people remember about you, which is you're a networker, and Christina Perry
Yep.
and Jar of Hearts. I
Mhm.
wanted to pull this back because there's so many times where, people are celebrities and then you think, oh, well, they're not real people. Well, at the time you were in New York,
Mhm.
but I feel like you were kind of like her publicist. Like you were like the intermediary of, this great, crazy songwriter and
Mhm.
a big break. And you were like that person in between. So if you could tell that story.
Oh my God, it's my favorite story to tell. So thanks for asking. I'll try to do you like a short justice. I do feel like there's a movie of this story like that needs to happen at some point. So I used to date Christina Perry's brother. And I mean, like for 3 months, barely in our early 20s. And I loved him. He's just as beautiful as she is. And when we broke up, he dumped me. Christina and I had become friends, and she was like, well,
Mhm.
I'm not breaking up with Keltie. And it was like we were kindred spirits. So we've been friends for more than 20 years now. And when she's always been the most talented person I've ever met in my life. And I can remember specifically, I think maybe right before I met you or right after, during the days when I was dating one of the guys from Panic at the Disco, I remember taking her in Philadelphia backstage, and they were on stage or doing meet and greet or something. And we were in their dressing room, and there was a piano, warm-up piano. And she just started singing. I'm like, just sing, and we just started wailing. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I was speaking of being her PR, I was in the elevator with their manager at the time. And I was like, my friend Christine is here, and she's like the best singer songwriter alive. And the manager at the time was like, oh, I don't think there's anything really special about her. And I specifically remember that. And I was like, oh my God, that's so mean. And you're so wrong. So fast forward all these years later, we're both living in Los Angeles. We're destitute. I was transitioning out of dance. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. She was songwriting and waitressing. She'd played no shows. And we got really sad. We wrote this list to the universe, and it was like, here's what we want. She was like, I want a record deal. I want to meet Jason Mraz. And I was like, I want bangs. I want to quit Diet Coke. I want to stop dating assholes. And we wrote this letter. I posted a YouTube video of me dancing to her songs like in our apartment. And the next morning, she got an email from Jason Mraz's manager being like, hey, are you signed? Do you have a manager? I love this song. I don't know how the hell they found this YouTube. And from there, they paid for her to make a demo of 3 songs. When we got the demo for Jar of Hearts, I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It was very kismet. Stacey Tukey, the choreographer extraordinaire. And I had always exchanged songs for dance. And I was like, hey, I got this song. It's amazing. She only heard the demo. She's like, I want the demo. They rushed within like 4 days to make a real recording of the song. Stacey put it on So You Think You Can Dance overnight. Christina became #1. She got courted by every major record label under the sun. Since then, she sold like gazillions of albums and has written, not only Jar of Hearts, but a million other songs, including the Twilight theme song. And every single person that I know has walked down that, including myself, has walked down the aisle to that song at their wedding 1,000 years, including me. She sang it when I got married, and we're still best friends. She just moved back to LA. We live 13 minutes apart from each other, and I could not be happier. Did I do it short enough?
That was nice.
Okay.
Now, what's funny is I didn't know that part of the story. I
Oh,
only
good.
remember that Stacey Tukey and you had some sort of, talk
Yeah.
about this girl, and then boom. And it's like that. I feel like the universe is like that. You just got to be in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time, and open. The other thing, open to receiving.
And I also feel like there are many people that are Christinas where they are very shy about their talents. Christina will never be a Beyonce because she cannot talk about how talented she is. She can't do an interview and be like, I'm a goat. Like, yeah, bitch, like, who runs the world, girls? No, she's like in the corner being like, I'm nothing, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I can't hold it together. Like, and so if you are that person, you got to have a hype man in your life. You got to have someone who's ruthless and shameless like me. And a lot of people hire those people, publicists, managers, whatever. But even in regular lady life, you know, it's like I talk all the time on Lady Gang, like women who are asking for promotions or jobs or in a job interview. It's like you have to learn how to say 3 sentences about yourself in a very complimentary way that don't make you completely uncomfortable. Because if you don't hype yourself, like really, truly, no one's going to do it for you unless you have a Keltie or you hire a publicist, you know? And that's the truth.
Yeah. Well, if there was, as far as your transitioning from dancer to, host extraordinaire, correspondent, news journalist, like how was that for you? What were the steps that you took to make that, like to put one career to the side and say, boom, I want this other one?
Yeah, it was really hard because I love dancing and I love being on stage and live theater. I mean, live theater doesn't exist at this moment, but I still have like anxiety, grief, breakup moment about not being a performer anymore. I think once that's in you, it's in you forever. And so this was like the next best thing. Um, I I just knew that my only other talent was talking. I have no other talents. I didn't go to college. So it was really difficult. You know, it was kind of like, what am I going to do now? I kind of fell into it, to be honest. I was out in LA. I was still dancing. I saw an audition for like a music host. I loved music. I went in, I got the job. I had no experience. I'd never talked on camera before. And then from there, I was like, wait, this is really easy. And I auditioned for dance jobs, like 900 dance jobs to get one. And hosting jobs, I auditioned for one and got one. And I was like, maybe this is easier. It's not, by the way. I totally got like beginner's luck. It's way harder. Instead of like 300 dance girls, there's like 2 host girls. But I just thought this is amazing. And then I kind of doors started opening. But what is I always take away from it, if everyone during COVID is watching all of these dance documentaries, like there was the Debbie Allen one with the hot chocolate nutcracker, and then there's the Point Plus on Disney, and there's all these different shows. What you'll notice about a dancer is they're fiercely determined. They have the craziest work ethic on the planet, and they are immune to rejection. And so those 3 things really, really, really served me being a host, because I was that person who worked harder, came in earlier, didn't mind getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning for 5 years straight, because that was my makeup time, and being out till 10 o'clock. You know, that work ethic and determination is what made my career.
Nice. Well, we are going to end your interview for the podcast right there, because boom, we are going to flip over to the rest of the episode. So stick around for the rest of the episode and we will be right back.